and welcome to Storydev. My name is Luke, also known as Tienery. Unlike the previous couple of weeks, there's a slight difference in this video. There's no webcam. I've decided to turn it off for this week. There's really no point at the moment to show my face, and also I kind of want to take a break from simply having my face on show all the time. I don't know why, I just like to have that break, I guess. Sounds stupid, I know, but yeah, why not? So, what has been happening since last week? Well, lots of things have been happening. I've started rebuilding the website for Storydev. If we go ahead and take a look at our current website, just before we begin, it currently looks like this. And yeah, there's not much really going on with this website. It's really just about the actual software that I've designed and developed in C# and WinForms, this sort of interactive story editor and engine. And there's a couple of other things as well, but that of course are in that software, but this needs changing. I've been using a different logo now for quite a while on all of my social media platforms, and there's no real point in having that website look like that at the moment. Obviously, this is besides the what we're actually doing in this programming session, but I thought I'd just let you know that's what's happening. There's another thing too, which is it's going to be a rebrand. There's going to be effort being put into Story Creator as well. So just want to point that out there. I'm actually going to make this a public announcement as well. So for anyone who has yet to look at my weekly programming sessions, which I'm of course doing every Sunday, you'll get access to this portion of the video, and then everything else will be split off and locked behind Patreon. So if you are viewing this on the public video that will be made available on YouTube, you will get access to this, just so that you are aware. And just briefly, before I cut off and continue, is if we take a look at what we've actually done in the game so far, we've got a moving player, and we're able to sort of interact with this. So you're probably wondering what's going on, how are we interacting with that? Well, let me flick a switch here and let me show you exactly what's going on and how we are interpreting this thing. So this is our player, as you can see, and of course, as you can see in the background, we've also got an actual map being rendered. If I move across here, then obviously we stop the camera from scrolling, and as you can see also, we've got these sort of weird yellow rectangles moving in one direction or the other, depending on you know, what direction we're facing. So if I start moving left or right, up or down, then the orientation of our player is actually moving in that direction as well. If I go diagonally, left and right is dominates the orientation there if we move diagonally. And as you can see, even if we're not directly on top, because our player is technically moving forwards, it can see that meditation spot. And we've got basically what's called scanning. So we're scanning ahead using these rectangles to determine what we're looking at and whether we can interact with it or not. I think this is probably quite high in terms of the number of scan iterations that we're doing. Maybe it should be 3 instead of, say, 4 that we're currently doing. But yeah, that's basically that. So you know, we're able to interact with that, and as we move across and left and down and right and such, we're able to interact with it. It's strangely satisfying watching these rectangles interact with other rectangles. That's got to be the quote of the week, right? Yeah, I totally rehearsed that. Anyway, so that is basically that. Part of this video, like I say, is going to be public, so for all those people who are currently watching on the public brief video, thank you for watching. For all those who are currently watching the Patreon version of this video, we shall continue. So, what are we doing exactly? What is the purpose of this? So, basically, as explained in the last video, and perhaps on Patreon as well, if you are following on Patreon, is we need to be able to move around on the map and be able to interact with what's called meditation spots, and that will allow us to actually you know, when we interact with the meditation spot by, say, pressing space, then we get a result, some kind of interface that is shown on the screen to basically demonstrate that's something that we're interacting with. And we've got this value here, player can interact with entity index. We're getting this index from our scans, and that's why you saw what you saw just now when the color is changing from whatever its original color was to basically white, and then we're showing that on screen. And that's basically how that works. I'm gonna switch this back off. This is basically kind of like a debug switch, I guess you could say. So we'll go with that for the time being. So what is it do I want to do? So first of all, I want to be able to do something when I press space while we are interacting with something, right? While we are interacting with something. So what I'm going to do is very simply, probably refine this later, but very simply, all I'm going to do in here is say if keys kind of want to do down, I think, and then keycode dot space, and very simply all I'm going to do is just trace our index interacted with, right? Very simply, when we press space while the player can interact with that meditation spot, so if we go over to our debug console here, and then I go up here and I press space, 0 interacted with, right? That's on down as well. Do I want it on down or do I want it? Maybe, Okay, for the time being, I'm actually going to do keys up. Probably makes more sense. So we'll go here and 0 interacted with, right? Takes some time for the debug console to actually respond to that, which is a bit odd, but yeah. So very simply, we've done something really simple just to say this is what we can do. Now when we press space, we've got to determine exactly what we're interacting with and how we're going to respond to that. I've been thinking maybe I kind of want some kind of message broadcasting system. First of all, I should probably commit the last changes that I did before I continue. That might be a good idea. So, allow player interactions. No, that's not what it is. It's allow simulating of entities. So, just to give a bit of context here, we simulate the entities before we render them, as you can imagine. So in here, we basically determine, based on these flags, scan player or scan screen, etc., what we're going to do. Now, scan screen and scan player is kind of doing two different things, but they're both being set at the same time, so it doesn't really matter at the moment. But when it does matter, the idea is to only simulate parts of the screen or the player or anything like that where it's necessary, and to only perform logic on entities when they're showing on screen, or if those entities actually need to be operated on, even if we're not actually seeing them. Like with the case, there's another flag called world. So we might actually scan the world for entities where their states might actually need to be changed, even if we're not actually seeing them yet. At the end of the day, this is an open world game, so with a story, of course. So having those options in place will be important for later. So moving up, let's have a look. So again, here we're basically ordering entities. The reason we do that is to make sure that certain types of entities are shown in a specific order on screen, and we basically determine based on the Y position of our entity whether it should be rendered first or rendered last, right? This kind of ordering kind of needs to be done when we simulate the screen, I think. But yeah. So there's another thing here, entity groups. Clearly didn't need to use that. Pointless. So there's two different, we've got two different variables here, and you're probably wondering, okay, what is this? So entity groups is a type def that takes us to a map, which is an int, and then within that we've got an array of entity objects. So what's going on here? So basically, if we ever wanted to iterate over all of a specific type of entity, whether it's a player, a meditation spot, other types of entities like game objects, non-player characters, props in the environment, etc. If we want to iterate over very specific types of entities, treasure chests, anything like that, then the fastest way to do that is to have something like this, where we've got a map which takes our entity type as the first item, and then we grab the actual entities that exist, and then we can iterate over that. And again, the same would be true for somewhat like this. So entity clustered, what this is doing when we order our entities is we're basically saying, okay, let's grab all of the entities that exist within this group, within these groups, and just put them all into one array, and then sort them. And the idea behind this is entity groups is a convenience method of being able to know what type of entity we want to look at while entity clustered is a single dimensional array that we use as the method for rendering, because we don't want to render all of our stuff based on entity groups. That would be too slow. So we use order entities and entity clustered. So every time we call order entities, we clear clusters and we go through it once again and we sort it once again. Now, it sounds inefficient, but computers are so fast these days, this shouldn't really matter. So that's basically how that works. So let's go up to, in fact, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go up. I'm going to take a look at what we've got here. So we've got an entity system, a map system, particle system, which I've never touched. I'll probably actually end up getting somebody else to do the particle system. But we've got some other... Oh, I'm missing something here. I've got a 3.2 B.2, and I can't actually remember what it's called now. Let's have a look. It is that. Make sure to do that. Okay, so what I want to do is have some kind of messaging system, like I mentioned. We've got simulations, game events. I started with this, simulations, game events, which I actually have not created by the looks of it. I actually marked it down as a section to create at some point, but obviously didn't bother to do anything with it. So instead of calling this game events, I'm going to make this our messaging system. I mean, I guess it kind of is game events, but I think that's a bit too vague. So I need to copy. We're going to go down to here. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to go here. And down here, I'm going to say, oops, I'm going to put that there. And once again, we'll do the same for this one. Okay, so here we're going to have messages of some type. Right. So messages, broadcast, and this is going to be of some type, right, which we haven't defined. So what I'm going to do is, we've got these things here which I started doing and then decided against it in the end. So I'm actually going to get rid of this stuff, because they're not really game events, they're more messages. I think I'll call it events anyway, but I'm not going to call this game event. I'm actually going to call it message. I think that's more appropriate. Maybe. I don't really know. I think it should be called message anyway. So we've got our message, right? And that's of a certain type. So we'll also have a message type. Certainly not massage. Message type. And in here, message type. And for our first message, we'll say message interact object, something like that, right? So we've got our type. Also going to have object ID. Or entity ID, I should say. That's what it really is. Entity ID. So, if we go over to here, we've got our messages, enter events, and we need to import that so that we can actually use it over here. So we'll say import events, message, right. Don't know why it was thinking it could import stuff from here. That's twin aspire, that's something different. But anyway, let's see. So we've got here, we want to basically get our message like this. We're going to init messages, which we're just going to initialize that variable, right? We could just do it immediately, but I'm not going to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say simulate messages. So literally all I'm going to do is say inside of our message, I should probably import events.message type. So literally all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through our message broadcast, and I'm just going to check what the type is and do something with it. So messages broadcast. I'm going to determine its type, and we're just going to say here message interact object, because that's the only thing we've got. And literally all I'm going to do is say trace message dot entity type is interacted with, just like we had before. And literally again, it's just a case of testing it to make sure it works. Now you actually need to create a message, so I'm going to say push message or in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to say message interaction, maybe? No. Create interaction or something like that. Create interaction message, maybe that's more appropriate. So we'll do this and we'll give our entity ID. So literally all I'm going to do is say for our message is new caps lock, new message, massage, and then our massage is going to have an entity ID. And then our massage is also going to have a type of a certain massage. You know, that's just what we do. I'm being weird, as you can tell. Message interact object. There we go. add that onto there, and every time, so after we've simulated all our messages, we just say, okay, messages, messages broadcast is empty. We probably won't do that, do it like that later on, because obviously we'll want to keep our messages around when, say, we're looping around. We only want to get the first message, and then we want to say move certain entities in certain ways, or when we actually go ahead and actually start creating cutscenes in this game, we'll want to look at the first message, do what we need to do with what that message tells us to do, simulate everything relating to that message, and then move on to the next message once that's completed, etc., etc., as you can imagine. So you can imagine how large the message system can get. Okay. So we've got this, and what I'm going to do is down where we had our entity system, which is 3.7, we're going to have, let's see, when we pressed space here, create interaction message, and our entity ID is our our value dot entity ID, I believe. So instead of having 0 interacted with, we should have something else show up. So press space. Oh, right, because we need to initialize the message system. Obviously, we did not do that. How terrible of me. I did not initialize the message system. So let's go ahead and do that. Init messages. That would be useful. So we interact with that, and in theory, oh, we're not even simulating messages now. I am missing stuff out. This is not good. I'm getting a little too excited for no reason. I think simulating messages should be something that we actually do during our simulation of entities. I think that would make more sense. Wouldn't you say? I think so. So inside simulate entities, we'll simulate messages. Or do we want to do that? Do we want to do it here, or do we want to keep that away from our entity code? I think probably we want to do that. So we'll do simulate messages and then simulate entities here. I think that would make more sense. Okay. So we go up here, and 2 is interacted with. Yeah, that is correct. That was the value I was expecting to see. And of course the trace output response is slow. But yeah, we can interact with that, so that's good. So now what I want to do is actually figure out what I want to do when I interact with an object. So let's go down here. Or I'll do it in this context and see what happens. So we've got our entity ID, right? So we've got to figure out what that entity is. So let's go ahead and find our entity. So find message.entity_ID, right? And next thing we're going to do is we're just going to say if our entity type is equal to entity meditation spot, then we are basically going to say to begin with, interacted with a meditation spot. We all know what the response is going to be. It's going to be interacted with a meditation spot. Or not. How bizarre is that? What is going on? Are we not? So our entity ID is 2, right? What are we doing? We're iterating through, we're checking the database to see if our ID is going to be equal to 2, and it is. What is that index? Let's have a look at our database and our data. This is this one here, test spot, type is 0. What? Is that right? That what? Why is our type 0 for? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Something's wrong there. Oh, you know what? You know what? I'm going mad. I can't do that. I need to do this. And also, I'm going to have to change that in the database as well, because the indices are going to be wrong. So, database entities. I'm going to go player just to make sure. Player. Oh, I don't even have a type that I can modify. Why don't I have a type to modify? What's wrong with me? Ah, god damn it. Just as you thought everything was fine and dandy. Let's go to the render UI. If you're wondering how many lines of code this is, it's a lot. We'll do a clock later. Let's see. Where are we? Entity editing. Right, here we are. So I'm just going to do a quick thing here. I'm going to say type. Oops. Type. And literally, I'm just going to say entity.type is equal to editor inline radio player meditation spot and selected entity.type. I should have done this before, but apparently I neglected to do it. Okay. Let's have a look. Entities. Player entity. So that's a player, so that's fine. Let's have a look at our test spot. Test spot is not a player, it's a meditation spot. Thank you very much. Let's save that. Thank you. Right. Get rid of that now. Ah. Sort of. I should probably implement a last view. That might be useful. Right. Anyway. So, interacted with the meditation spot. That was a good idea. I actually checked that. It's always good to check everything. Always a good idea. Alright. So we got that, that's cool. You know what, I actually want to turn on this. It's strangely satisfying to watch. Anyway, so let's see. Where do we want to go? I want to go to somewhere. Where's our rendered entity stuff? There we are. Right. So, although, you know what? 4.1. So here, next thing I want to do is actually find a way to actually create an interface. How do I do that? Well, currently there's not much in the way of interfaces in this game yet. Not much in the way of graphics, at least, anyway. So I'm not gonna do too much with that. But what I will do is if I go back to my interface code. Interfaces. So 3.4. So this is the interface code in an in-game interface. We can either test or we're not testing, right? And then we've got render in-game interface. And this does loads of different things, right? So maybe I kind of want this. Interface view active. So here's a thing. Here is the thing. When we're moving, it's actually in the map. I don't know why this code is in the map. I have no idea. But basically, what I'm going to do here is say if interface view active is not equal to is equal to -1 rather, then we're going to have that. And we're going to have another type of interface. That's what we're going to have, another type of interface. I've actually got interface frame here, so we might be able to use that. That interface frame code, though, is a little odd, I think. Interface frame is what I'm looking for. So we've got this opt thing. This function does not seem to do a very good job of accurately determining height. So draw scaled sub-image is probably better. Shall I bother? Shall I do it now? As you can see, this code is not very optimal. Basically, it requires the use of scale 9 rect. Pretty much. Maybe I'll do it later. For now, okay. Yeah, for now, what I'm going to do, I mean... I think a lot of this code just needs to be a bit refactored, really. Render talents, I mean, that's hard to do. Don't know why it didn't even mark it up. Yeah, for now I'm just going to do something really simple. I'm not going to bother with using interfaces for now, as in the actual interface graphics. I'm just going to draw something simple. So, where am I going? Where am I going? Is it here? Yes, it is. Right. So we have interface. Let's go interface meditation. So we'll do this. And with the meditation, what I'm going to do... where's our game? So we have interface meditation, right? Which is going to do something. Now, we've got kind of like a basic inventory kind of going on, but it's not currently being implemented. And the idea behind this interface of meditation is to basically give you the option: do you want to continue? What crystals do you want to use? And then it generates a different meditation every time. So if we have different meditation spots that say, okay, for this meditation spot we're going to have certain parameters that adjusts what kind of meditation it is, right? So maybe it's a boss battle, maybe it's just a random meditation session where you just get a select few emotions, and certain crystals will be more useful for that one, and the other meditation spot which has this boss battle is more scripted, which of course we haven't even got to yet. So let's see. So I'll have something similar to this, interface render talent. So I'll have interface render meditation down here. Interface render meditation. And, you know, we'll just kind of put it in the middle of the screen. Right. So here, literally, just for the time being, I'm just going to say color. I'm going to have it black, but we're going to make it, say, slightly transparent. And I'm just going to fill rect X, Y, width, height. Right. And don't know what I was doing that for. And then make the outside white, draw rect. What is it? Why? What? Slightly thick background. So we've got interface render meditation like that, and so interface render meditation. So in here, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I need to find the X position. So we'll say our X position is going to be our buffer width, or in fact, no, we'll go width. So we're just going to be, say, our buffer width, maybe 60% of the screen. And then height is going to be our buffer height, maybe 50% of the screen. And we'll just position that in the middle. So like that. The same with the Y position. So X, Y, width, height. Like that. And so what I'm going to do is, so we've got, like I say, we've got this interface viewer active here. Literally all I'm going to do is under our interaction, when we actually interact with the player and we create our interaction message, when we do this, basically we want to tell our interface code to actually say interface view active is equal to interface meditation, and then that would stop, that would prevent us from actually moving our player around as well. So that's all cool. So what we also need to do is actually render our interface. So in our render map function, that'll be the last thing we do. So we'll render interface, in-game interface like this. And that's the last thing that we do. Assuming we've actually initialized the in-game interface, which we should, just by default. At least for the time being, at least. I'm going to do an in-game interface. It is not the test. If we do test it, we actually end up setting a different view, which is not what we want. So let's test that. Let's see what happens. Oh. What's going on? What are we doing? Sprite size of undefined. Render in-game interface. Why is that? I'm going to do it here, just in case it's causing problems. It shouldn't be. It's a bit weird that it is, but maybe that's the reason. Yeah, that was indeed the reason. Okay. So yeah, this of course all still works. We can move our player around, right? So if we interact with this, we can no longer move our player around, and we've got something in the middle of the screen. Cool. Maybe that should be a bit bigger. Thinking that should be a bit bigger. I'm thinking it should be. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look. Maybe that should be 0.7, 0.6 maybe. Oops, was not meant to do that. I suppose that looks alright. Suppose it does. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's the size I would like. So yeah, we'll go with that. So inside of our interface render meditation code, we want to have a start position, and I think initially I'm just going to say 2020, and what I'm going to do is we're going to say render crystals from inventory. So we'll have a bunch of crystals from our inventory, which we can select to go into our meditation session. But that's kind of more of a to-do. I think I'll probably do that later, thinking about it. So instead what I'm actually going to do is I'm literally just going to have two buttons. Basically say, do this and do that. So interface, button, and I'm literally just going to say start, and our x position is going to be start pos.x plus x, start position.y plus y, and I am literally just going to say init meditation, and yeah, that'll do. And then if interface button close start position. So I actually need to, what I need to do is interface button next size. start pass. Do exposition, and then I'll say maybe you know what I'm gonna do? You know what? I'm gonna do this. So we'll do close first. And we'll make that interface view active is equal to interface none. And that is going to be our close size. Close. So we'll do that close size minus X, close size minus Y, and I'm going to decrement that by our close size. And this is going to be our start. And start size that is going to init meditation. Once it's initialized, it switches over to meditation. So when we're done with our meditation, we should in theory go back to our map. So I will just double check that code actually, thinking about it. So if we go back to our meditation, would it be? Where would it be? 3.3. That's meditation, isn't it? Yes. So if we go here, we've got our meditation, render meditation prepare, which we're not actually doing anymore. Might as well just get rid of that. So we have our meditation game and meditation score. So that's what we would get. So we got our view, meditation view, meditation view, meditation game. I think what I want to do is actually have a last view. So I'll go last view. Let's have a look. Where's our view? Am I blind or something? Where's var view? Oh, there it is. Last view. Right. Do that. Basically, what I want to do is say, when we initialize, we've got our view world here. And we also want to make that our last view as well. So last view is also equal to view world. So when I close, which would be here, instead of saying view editor, I'm just going to say view as last view. And the same would be the case if I'm in the, where is it, place thing, view here. So we've got view when I initialize, and that could be last view. Wait, that's not going to work, is it? That's not going to work. What am I doing? View editor. What would I want to change view editor to? If I do Control Shift. Actually, you know what? I think I prefer that behavior anyway, because if I want to go to the editor, I can just Control Shift P like I would do normally. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I think that will be fine. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, let's have a look at that. So we've got a start and close, and that's not quite in the right position. If we do close, that's done that, okay. And then if we do start, we can actually have a meditation session going on. Right. So we'll just go through here. Actually do that. Get it down, get it down. Can't do anything with intuition at the moment, because we don't have the right crystal. Okay. And of course, if you're defending a lane, we are not able to enhance those emotions as much as we would like to. Right. Don't know why I just did that. Do that. I think we just about managed to save ourselves. Okay, so yeah, we get this, we close, and yeah. That's basically that. And we leveled up. We're now level 2. Oh dear. Okay, so yeah, basically that is that. I mean, we have been recording for just over an hour, so for me, I'm actually happy to leave this video off at this point in time. There is a lot to go into this game, as you can probably tell. There's a lot going on. I mean, this is literally just scratching the surface of what is intended to go into this game. A lot of what you see here is probably not actually going to be implemented. Whether I do environmental puzzles or not will ultimately be dependent on time and whether it's appropriate for this game. The same with spells as well. Do I really want spells in this game? I mean, how much do I actually want to put into this game is really the question. Actually, the game doesn't do anything. But, you know, there's a lot going into this game, as you can see. So, yeah. That is basically it at the moment. So, I'm going to finish off here. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I will see you next week And of course, next week I'm going to be doing a monthly video as well. So we're going to be talking about pretty much everything that's been done in the past month, demonstrating the progress that has happened pretty much since the very first programming session. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time.